And then direct goals that our client has stated is he wants us to be able to collect data in a fair and impartial manner so that UW-Stout can improve on curriculum, learning opportunities, and then the applicability of knowledge for our students, and as well as access to resources so that students can feel respected and treated fairly, and will know this and based on the data that we can collect. And we want to make sure that they think that if the evaluations are fair and meaningful or not.
So the project plan for us is we start with a universal set of questions that are automatically sent out to the students enrolled in every course offered. The data then will be collected and compiled using Salesforce, and then this data is available for the department heads who are the owners of the courses and curriculum and college deans. To improve student participation in these evaluations, we are offering a $100 prepaid visa. For each course evaluation a student fills out, their student email is entered into the pool of students that is randomly drawn from to determine a winner. After the evaluations are compiled, an automatic email will be sent to the professors for each of their courses with the appropriate data. As for deliverables, we will deliver a Salesforce-based survey for students to evaluate their classes and professors, an automatically sent email of the survey to students, an automatically sent email of the compiled anonymous evaluation data to teachers after the evaluations have been sent out, a dashboard/report for department heads, college deans, and the chancellor, a randomized drawing for the student who has won the drawing each semester, and as a side note, that does include wind term and summer term, and we'll also deliver demonstrations of the automatic evaluation sent out, the email of compiled data sent to the professors, a demonstration of the dashboard report for the department heads, college deans, and chancellor, and the randomized drawing.
All right, here we have our SWOT analysis, where we analyze strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. When analyzing strengths, we found that most professors have some type of course evaluation already, so this allows us to transition to a different type of evaluation, but the transition shouldn't be difficult. Our goal is to have everyone have or do an eval and collect the data. Oh, sorry about the noise. All right, sorry about that. When analyzing the weaknesses, we found that there's no consistency between the evaluations. So our goal is to have a consistent evaluation data for analysis and decision making. When we looked at the opportunities, we found that we can gather data consistently and in an attempt to improve curriculum, instructional methods, and standardizing tools to get clear information from the students. When we looked at the threats, we saw that ongoing situations that discourage students from completing their degree at UW-Stout. Also, instructors may set the bar of expectations at levels that at which they are unachievable. So next we have the data model. All right, starting at the top of the data model, or the user model, we have the chancellor. Stout's current chancellor is Dr. Catherine P. Frank, and they're the face of the student, or face of the school, and they lead the college in the direction they see fit. Next, we have the Dean of Students, who is in charge of student affairs and well-being. Then we have the Deans of Colleges, who oversee the colleges listed below. After that, we have the department heads who manage the material between being taught within their departments. And lastly, we have the professors, which are the main interaction between students and faculty. and the education and the educators of UW-Stout.
All right, for our process model key, we have an oval for the start to end. We have a rectangle for our process. We have some more shapes like a sub-process, documents, and decisions. So this is just our key to kind of give you an idea of what it is. And here is our full process model. This model shows the process of emailing students with an evaluation for their professors and the end of the process with the winner of the drawing and the compiled data for professors, deans of colleges, and department heads. So as you can see here, we have the start of our process model. It goes in a compiled list of courses and professors, which then goes to the list of students enrolled in courses, which then becomes a document to send links to students, followed by the rest of the process where students follow links to the evaluation. After that, students complete evaluation, and then this next step is where it breaks off into two different processes. The window for evaluation closes. The first process that it breaks off into is the data is collected, then the data is compiled, then the automatic email to the professors, and then the automatic email to the dean of college, department head, and they all have login information to these dashboards. The second process is where it compiles a list of IDs entered, it randomly chooses a winner, and then an auto email to the winner is provided, and then they both end. All right, then for this, the data model, this diagram shows what departments and or users need what data. It also shows who can view it and who can edit it. So we have professors, students, and scheduling enrollment. Professors have their professor ID, first name, last name, Stout email. Department and college. Students have student IDs, first name, last name, Stout email, and class enrollment and their major. Then the scheduling enrollment has class ID, department, college, class list, class enrollment, and professor ID.
As for the Pitter-Patter's next steps in these following weeks for the rest of the semester, this week we're focusing on the CRM system design, and this includes data mapping, user profile requirements, and system requirements. After that, we'll begin our 4 sprints. We have 4 different ones, and each one includes wireframes, data requirements, functional requirements, auditing requirements, and CRM system implementation, and we'll end with CRM system security and support. And so that's the end of our presentation, and we do ask that you direct your questions to one of us, just so we're not talking all over each other. So is there any questions for us at this time?
Yeah, I'll go. This is Bob. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
First, great job. Very clear and concise presentation, easy to follow. I had a question just regarding the documentation. At your last slide there, you mentioned the various requirements that you're gathering. How far have you developed those? I mean, you seem like you've got a pretty clear picture of your solution already, but has the client reviewed any of the documentation, and have you gained alignment with the client on what you're building?
From my understanding, we have the green light from James to pursue this. At this time, we've still been researching UW-Stout and getting a basic understanding before we get our hands in to Salesforce and starting to build. We haven't shared too much of these specific models. I believe this is the first time James, our client, is seeing this, but this is what we've kind of been spending our time on up till now.
Okay.
This is James, your client. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I had just a couple of questions here. First of all, in the flow chart, I was curious why you use different symbols than the standard flow chart symbols that most people use. So that's question number 1. Question number 2 is, it seems from your implementation that you're going to require every faculty member to have a login to the Salesforce system, as opposed to emailing them some sort of compiled report for each of their sections. So I just wanted to have clarity on that. And third thing, on your data model, someplace within your enrollment scheme, you also need to designate what term you're talking about and what section you're talking about. So first of all, could you give some comment, maybe Olivia, on the use in the flow chart of the symbols that you've created?
As for the flow chart, let me just skip back to that right now. That was just something we ended up using. We just created our own symbols to have our kind of our own edge on it, I think. There was no real decision of why we would use something else. As for
let me just give a quick comment though. For people who do data stuff, it tends to give me cognitive dissonance. I am not quite understanding what I'm looking at because I'm used to other symbols for those things. So just a consideration for your group as well as the rest of the consulting teams.
Thank you for that. We'll definitely be sure to correct that. As for the Salesforce Access, the people who will have access, who will have licenses for Salesforce, will be the dean of the colleges, department heads, and then the chancellor. The only people, that's the only group of people who would have licenses. Professors will be automatically emailed, compiled data and reports to them, so they will not have login access, and neither will the students.
Okay, very good. I must have misheard that in the presentation. Thank you for clarifying.
Absolutely. And then as for the data model, this data model is on the back end. It's on Salesforce of how it's kind of working in the back. It's not going to be who will be reading or writing it. It's just the back end of how we're looking at how the data works on Salesforce at this time.
Sure. My comment on the scheduling and enrollment is that along with those other data fields, you'll need to have something that indicates which term you're talking about, as well as which section, unless that's going to be part of your class ID that has some other kind of lookup to term and section.
And I think that was discussed. The class ID is a specific, as I understand it, a specific unique ID that is related to each section and semester that it is taught, from my understanding.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Is there any other questions for us at this time?
I don't have any questions for you. This is Cami. I don't have any questions. I just want to give you guys kudos on the amount of time that you, well, not time, but effort you are putting towards actually understanding the college and how it's laid out and who your customer is, and really gathering that intel, because it's really going to help you in the long run build this out to really help your customers' needs. So kudos to you guys on doing that.
Thank you very much, Cami. That's very nice to hear. Is there any other questions for us?
Yes, your instructor would like to chime in with a few comments. First of all, I just want to say, kind of following up with what Cami had to say, kudos on getting to know who your client is, to get that insight into who they are before you jump into dealing with their problems. I also want to say, we've emphasized quite a bit, and we will continue to emphasize effective communication. This is a well-designed presentation, and I think it does justice to what you're trying to do. And again, communication is part of the problem. It's also part of the solution, so good job with that.
This is the client again. I agree with what both Cami and Evan have said. A very nice job of putting together the presentation. And I'm sorry if I sounded overly picky, but it's just trying to give some constructive feedback. Thanks.
Thank you, Evan and James, for your feedback. That was very nice. And no, not overly picky. It's a learning process. It is, as we've always said, a fire hose in this course. But thank you. If there's no other questions, I think we're ready to move on.
Alrighty, could somebody from Cloudasity please share your screen and start off the presentation? Okay, so we are Team Cloudasity, and this is our initial solution presentation. Starting with some introductions. I am Abby Scribner. I am the project manager.
I'm Rachel Nielsen. I'm the business analyst.
I am Alex Leisking. I am one of the technical SMEs.
And I am Larry Pilgrim, and I am another one of the technical SMEs.
Okay, so moving on to the problem, we decided that course evaluations is where we thought that we could give the university the best solution. It is a problem because currently the evaluations that are sent out to students at the end of each semester are not standardized or analyzed, which has led to inconsistency and lost insights to improvement. Currently, each department is allowed to create their own surveys with their own set of questions, and each instructor within the department can offer alternate surveys from the one provided by the department. This means that each department may have a dozen different surveys sent out to students that do not correlate with the others. With so many different surveys, data collection is not centralized or looked at by anyone specific, which means the survey answers are not being used to analyze how the departments are doing and if their customers are satisfied. This is an issue because with no means to identify possible areas of deficiency, it becomes difficult to make effective improvements. If students feel discouraged in courses and facing similar frustrations semester after semester, they may choose to leave the university, which leads to reduced tuition revenue for the school. Another problem that arises is the inability to reallocate resources effectively and fairly. If departments are not analyzing their evaluations in a consistent and inclusive manner, it becomes more difficult to reallocate staff and other resources in a manner which will seem fair and impartial. That in turn creates hesitation in making any changes, as those may create anger. If evaluations were analyzed inclusively, consistently, and fairly, the school could reallocate their resources to the right places and using those resources for things that will improve customer satisfaction, bringing in more revenue for the school in the long run. So with that, Rachel will talk about our solution.
What we think is the best solution to resolve this is to create a standardized survey in Salesforce across all of the departments. What we're going to do is create different surveys for courses of similar types to send to the students. So what we'll do is we'll have separate surveys for lectured courses, internships and co-ops, and lab courses. Another thing we would like to do is have 2 separate surveys for face-to-face as well and online courses. And we feel that this is necessary because the student experience for each of those categories has a different learning style to it. So that would translate well across the board, essentially. We'll be having these surveys sent 2 weeks before the semester ends. That way, it'll give the students enough time to consider and reflect upon the courses before answering the surveys when the semester ends, when stress is high, and that could potentially cloud their opinion of the class. So this would ensure good participation in completing the surveys. Another advantage to taking these surveys is that the results will be collected in one central location through Salesforce. So this will make it easier for the department heads to analyze and view the results as well as the instructors. Now Alex will go through our process map.
So for our process map, we have a couple of phases that we ended up creating. So first we start out with the survey phase. Starting off from the top, we have the department heads are going to be creating the questions, and those questions will go to the instructors who will review those questions to see if it's something that they want to ask their students. If they don't, then they go back up to the department heads and to review the questions again and maybe make some new ones or any edits and changes. Assuming the instructors say yes, that carries all the questions down to the CRM. Once they're kind of sitting in the CRM ready to go, the CRM just has to say, or has to ask the question, has the survey period started or not? If yes, then go ahead, send the emails out to all the students. Each student is going to get an email with a link, and then once they click that link, they have to decide whether they want to take the survey or not. From there, obviously, they're already deciding too if they're going to click the link, whether they're going to take it or not, more than likely. Assuming they are, then the CRM has to decide, oh, has the survey period ended? So we have a little bit of logic here to decide, has the survey period ended, and then has the student already taken the survey? Because we don't want them taking the survey if the period has obviously ended and if they've already taken it, to reduce any bad data coming in. Once that is been decided and the logic checks out, the survey is then compiled, or the student then completes the survey, and then all of those records go into the responses database. And then from there, we go on to the analysis phase. So from the analysis phase, it goes from the stored database to the compile dashboards. And then from there, the department heads would be able to look at those dashboards once the survey period has ended. And then from from there, they kind of decide, okay, we want to email all the instructors all the data that we have collected. We reviewed this, and the instructors can then see the data from all the survey data based on what the students' responses are.
All right, so for our budget, we're meeting at least 2 times per week. We're meeting on average usually about 1 to 2 hours per week. We feel we're using our time as efficiently as possible. We may have more meetings as our expected target date does approach. We do often work together using sort of a paired programming approach, as we feel we can achieve more in a shorter amount of time by putting our heads together. That said, we will be branching off and doing some individual work as necessary, especially as we do focus more heavily on our development process. We're currently sitting at a budget of $3,650, and we feel due to the efficient approaches that we've been taking, we should come in at or well under the given budget of $50,000.
And that concludes our slides. Do we have any questions?
Your client has some questions and comments, if I can. One of the things that I'm very concerned about is it seemed from your presentation that you're allowing department heads to create questions and then instructors to approve them. Did I hear that correctly?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, how is that different in your solution than what we already have? And I guess what my question or my concern is, we have lots and lots of instructors, and if we allow each instructor to have comment and right to reject questions that are on the survey or right to edit questions on the survey, how are we possibly going to have a set of surveys that are going to be consistent across all departments? I think a much better approach would be to bring this task to the university provost and the 3 academic deans to have them decide which questions are appropriate and would work across all of the colleges rather than to try and have each department and instructor fight that out. So that's, I guess, a big concern that I have as the client. I think it will be a big mess if we go down the route that you're currently proposing. Mm-hmm. The other thing that has me concerned, and again, I appreciate the work that you put into this presentation and the meetings that we've had, but Your current time spent on the project, as you've disclosed and shared with us, seems very low from a client perspective. And I would expect at this phase of the research and design that you would have consumed at least a third of your budget or more to just get an understanding of what the needs are, what the process is going to be, etc. So, I appreciate the work that you put into the presentation, but those are 2 points that I really have strong concerns with.
Okay, thanks, James. We will make sure to discuss those and make some changes. Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments?
This is Bob. I'll kind of follow on to the budget comments that James had. You made the comment that you feel you will be under budget. How have you determined that? I mean, what is it that you're using to say, hey, at this point to your client that we think will be under budget? Is it just a gut feel, or is there any analysis that you've done to derive that you'll be under budget?
We basically looked at the current hours that we have at the moment, and looked in figuring how much time we've spent now and how much time we are anticipating to complete the project. We felt that we would continue on and be under budget.
Okay. Just to suggest, if you haven't, one thing that we do with our project teams, the particular the project manager every week is asking for estimates to complete. I would assume by this point in the project you're starting to get a feel for the level of number of tasks and effort that is left to complete the project. So maybe putting some estimates around that if you haven't, just to make sure you can accurately communicate to your client what the level of effort and how much more budget is left to burn on it.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Any other questions or comments?
Yes, Evan here. Just a couple of perspectives I'd like to throw out here as well. To James' point, and I think for both of the groups at this point, having looked at the evaluation problem, and you're looking for a solution for that, one of the things that both of the groups are going to benefit in is to get the insights into what the current process is a little further. So one of the things we have at a college campus is a governance process. The governance process is connected strongly to the position at a university, which is very unique, and that's the tenure position with faculty. And so the way things have gone over the years is every single department as a unit on a campus, like a UW-Stout, we'll just say with Stout, they do have the power to move in the direction of saying this is what we're going to evaluate. Now, is it standard? The only thing standard about that is that everybody gets a choice to do something that isn't standardized. It does create some problems from the top as far as the big picture perspective of the university. I would certainly make myself available to get the perspective so that you understood essentially this significant aspect of this problem. Again, say if you have a business that wants common data, common insights about something versus a university, when you got a entitlement position like a faculty member in a tenured position, that creates a whole set of problems and a whole set of challenges. So anyways, I think everybody that's going after this solution needs to have an understanding of that aspect of the problem. So anyways, I put myself out there as a source just to give some insight into that further, kind of contributing with James as client. Another thing too, and I heard this from the first group as well, and I think I need to throw this to the second group. The licensing for Salesforce is a cost. Salesforce is very, very powerful and very, very good, but it's also very, very expensive. So to make sure that you get your head wrapped around about what the cost to the client is going to be relative to extra licensing is no small thing. You need to have that there, because without considering that, you're eliminating a very important consideration. These days in particular, I can say that the money isn't, falling out of trees and they just go pick it up and spend it as they like. You need to consider that that is a service, I believe, to the client in this case. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Evan. Anyone else? Okay, that sounds like the end of it. We appreciate all of the comments and concerns and questions. We will be sure to get a better understanding of the current process to ensure that our solution is a benefit for the university and an improvement. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Cloudasity, for that. If somebody from Forward Thinkers wants to go ahead and share their screen, that would be awesome.
Sorry, I'm still muted. Hi, everyone. Forward Thinkers. My name is Maizia, and I am the project manager. We have two subject matter experts. One is Sharon, and the other is Luke. And then we have our business analyst, which is Stephanie. So the problem that we want to focus on was centered around three different things. The first thing was regarding student retention. And this is specifically for students who are attending online. Online students often find themselves figuring out the required courses for their program. So this can lead to lack of engagement, where their graduation is delayed, they aren't enrolling for the required courses for their program, resulting in dropping out or even transferring schools. The second thing is around advisor resources, and this is also coupled with student retention, where advisors have a high workload with students, and you don't have a budget required to hire more advisors to engage with students. And so with these two things coupled together, students aren't reaching out to the advisor, and both advisor are spending a lot of time figuring out the required courses for the students so that they can graduate on time. Another aspect of the issue was that the sections that are offered, maybe there aren't as many students who are filling up these courses, which means that there are too many courses with empty seats, resulting in we're not using our resources effectively. To talk about our solution, Stephanie will be presenting on that.
Hi, yes. So for our solution, who's going to benefit? It's going to be the students and the advisors. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating an automated email process that sends out the course suggestions based on the student's previous completed semester of school. And when this is going to happen, it's going to be during the enrollment window for the student, excuse me, where it's delivered via email for online students in the ICT program. Only the advisors will have access to the Salesforce in order to make changes. How this is going to work, it's going to be a course suggestions that are going to be populated into a document that it's going to be emailed to students. The reports can be generated for the advisors to use and reference. Our why, this will cut down on the time that the advisors use with students who need the information. In return, advisors can spend their time and energy with students who want more sophisticated guidance and engagement with an advisor. Higher quality engagement with an advisor ensures that the student will stay in their program and that students have an easier path with the enrollment process every semester they complete their journey with UW-Stout. UW-Stout also can use the data to project future class loads, such as the number of needed instructors or how many sections of classes to offer to ensure that sections stay full. In regards to our budget's $50,000. Currently, there are no foreseeable problems resulting from the budget. We're going to reevaluate after the sprint schedules are finalized, but we keep track of our hours on a weekly basis, and we have projected an estimated amount of time that we will be working on tasks. So due to all of that, we don't see any problems with our budget.
So we wanted to give of what we're currently working on. To talk about these two things is Luke and Sharon.
Yep, thank you, Mosiah. So to get started, we're going to be looking at the email template that will be sent out to students. This will be the first email that is sent out. Is usually sent out about 1 week prior to the enrollment window. And the email itself will contain a report that states which classes to take. And now if you want to look at the second email that is sent out, this email is only for students that have failed a class. This will be sent out after the semester is completed, and this will have an updated chart of classes that account for classes that students did not wind up passing.
And then Sharon will be sharing with us our high-level process flow.
Okay, so for the high level, just a high-level overview of our process. Basically, 7 days before an enrollment window opens, we'll be requesting student records from the Records and Registration Office into our CRM. Once we receive those student records, we'll just parse them out, compare the student course history that's already in our system to the current course schedule. And then from that, we'll be able to create a report with what classes a student needs based on their program plan, and then generate an email and include that report in the email sent to the student. And then 2 days after the end of course, after all the grades have been submitted, then we'll be requesting updated student records, including the finalized grades. Based on those finalized grades, we'll be again comparing them to the course history and the course schedule, along with the grades. And if a student failed a class, then we'll be generating a second email, taking into account if a student maybe did not pass a class, then we'll just be creating a new schedule, a suggested schedule with that class taken into account. And then for this, within our CRM, we'll be using the education data architecture. And this will be really helpful with our budget too, because it'll just cut the time that we'll spend creating different data objects within the Salesforce itself. With this, it contains data objects for courses, grades, program planning, and course offerings. So we'll be able to just go through everything and not have to put too much into it, and thus cutting how much we're spending time in that part of our solution.
Yes. Any questions about anything?
Hi, this is your client again. I had a couple questions. First of all, in the email templates, I didn't quite see or understand where you have a field to recommend which courses for the upcoming term. I'm guessing that's still in development. Is that accurate?
Yes, that's correct. We wanted to get down the text portion of the templates, so we're modeling it after what we've been seeing in our in student emails. We haven't decided where we want the chart to be within the email.
Okay. So I'm glad that I understand that correctly. The other thing, if you want to flip to the EDA model, I do have some concerns here in your proof of concept because the EDA architecture is extremely complex with a lot of interdependent objects. So if you're going to be using those schemas, how are you going to be populating the information within all those separate objects? I think using this predefined architecture might shift the balance of your work from creating custom objects that you well understood and have limited things that you have to populate versus having to spend a lot of time creating data that will properly link with each other. So just a question there, I guess.
Some of the data objects, like the way they interwork with each other, I have read up on it before, so it shouldn't be super complicated to be able to kind of figure out which parts of it we need and which parts are kind of connected. And that would be part of what we'll be spending our time on, just testing it, since we have been able to figure out the solution and what we want to go into the CRM. So we're just allocating more time into just the building and testing out the parts of the CRM.
Okay, fair enough. I just wanted to make sure that you were aware of the interdependencies. Thanks.
Did anyone else have any questions or comments for us?
Yes, Evan here. I think these days, with the way we've been asked to kind of redo our business, the whole notion of retention, resources, enrollment management really hit a sweet spot for me. I know there's people right now that are trying to figure out how do we do advisement prior to the registration for classes. Certainly those of you that are in the ICT program or DMT program, you know what you've experienced. And it's pretty fluid and it's pretty elegant. We don't have a lot of technologies that are associated with it, but you know that it gets done without a whole lot of extra effort. But right now our campus is in a spot where we've got programs of 200 or more students that have traditionally met in big lecture halls and have done traditional advisement practices that they're just not able to do. And there's people scrambling because, quite honestly, I think if I'm not mistaken, advisement day is next week, isn't it? I think it is. I've got mine scheduled, so it's going to work just fine. But this is a very timely solution, and the kind of ideas here are probably, or I'm hoping our organization, our university, takes some of these things seriously, because advisement means a lot, especially with retention. What happens if people don't get the right information? They may not come to Stout, and that is, from a business perspective, not a good thing. So, anyways, that's my only comments. I think this solution is something that we really need.
Well, and from the client's perspective, this is one of the things where the cost benefit could be tremendous. If it normally takes an advisor half an hour to try and dialogue with the student and figure out, where are they currently at, how are things going, as opposed to having a lot of these recommendations developed in advance and then maybe cutting that 30 minutes down to 10 or 15 minutes, it's like we're hiring twice as many advisors to complete these functions. And it just allows much faster resolution of any problems that students have, and it gives more time to have higher level discussions about career goals and what types of sub-programs like minors and concentrations might be appropriate. So this could be a huge game changer if the university decides to pursue this down the line.
For those comments. When we presented this to James, he actually shared with us how he has worked with something similar like this before. So it gave us insight into how we can delve deeper into it. Were there any last questions or comments before I can move on to the next presentation?
Alrighty, sounds good then. Mazia, if you want to stop sharing your screen, if somebody from M&M would love to share your screen, that would be awesome. You can start with your presentation next.
Is that working? I
have a black screen right now.
Okay, let me just fix this real quick then. There, does that work?
Yep.
All right, cool. Oh, hello, we are M&M Consulting, and this is our midterm presentation, and for introductions of everybody on our team, I'm just going to hand it off.
Oh, sorry. My name's Michael Murphy. I'm an SME.
My name is Mike Bergstrom. I'm an SME as well.
My name's Andrew Walker, and I'm a project manager.
And my name is Nina O'Leary, and I am the business analyst for the consulting team and M&M. I'm actually just going to take it off right away and go and talk about our problem that we have that we've been working with. So, before I jump right into it, I kind of want to give a little bit of a background. So the University of Wisconsin-Stout loses significant tuition revenue whenever a student drops out. And when student retention is low, it results in the need for budget cuts or layoffs. As a result, the student experience may suffer, leading to worse retention, creating a feedback loop. Financially, this represents a significant loss of potential revenue to the university. So, for example, in-state students, when they drop out after the first semester, the school loses roughly $5,000 in the following term. And then when the university fails to retain an in-state student from the first term to graduation, that is potentially losing $35,000 in tuition revenue. And so we believe that making the university's course evaluation process more centralized will help department chairs ensure that students' experience in courses continually improves and that students are getting the resources they need, thus keeping the retention of students at Stout higher, and then also keeping the revenue for Stout at a higher amount. So currently the University of Wisconsin-Stout's course evaluation process is a complete disaster. Each department can have their own set of questions. Professors might also offer alternative surveys, and most importantly, there's no centralized data collection. The chaos that surrounds completing the surveys for UW-Stout students is a complete turnoff, and with the lack of data collection, it also seems to be a waste of time. There's no way to determine if professors have improved from last semester's surveys, and no way to determine if students are satisfied with their experiences at this given time. Additionally, with the current course evaluations, it is impossible to evaluate curriculum, course design, topic sequence, course textbooks and resources, or whether the instructors are meeting the students' expectations. And so Michael is going to follow up kind of with our solutions to these problems that we are facing currently.
All right, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I just wanted to apologize real quick. I got a sister in college as well. She's streaming lectures, and I have a mom working from home as well remotely. So it's kind of like a lot of stress on the internet right now. But I'm gonna go right into the solution. So our group name is M&M. James Falkofske, that's the who. We plan on using Salesforce for our solution because the CRM has a survey dashboard that allows us to see the results of all the surveys we send out. We can also take those surveys and make different reports with them. Salesforce also allows us to export the reports in a variety of ways. The administrator can download it to their computer or send the link via email. We would like this to be automated, but due to time constraints, this will have to be manual. The actual content will be roughly 5 to 10 questions. We want to stress the importance of focusing on the curriculum and not the instructor's personality. We would like our questions to be a range of 1 for strongly disagree to 5 for strongly agree. While researching Salesforce, we found that the options they have for the type of questions is limited, and we don't get much flexibility with each type. Putting that aside, not all questions will have this option. We plan on having at least one being open text. That way students can openly give feedback on the. Next slide, please, Andrew. Awesome. All right. So we will be creating this on Salesforce, as previously mentioned. Salesforce allows students to take the survey by a hyperlink, which will be sent to the student's email. We have a total of 3 months to deliver this. The rest of this 3-month period will be focusing on the development in Salesforce. Next slide, please, Andrew. All right, so why? Why do we choose this solution? Why should I do not want to go into too much detail, as the why goes into the improvement for the climate, which another team member will present to you. I will say that the route we are taking will address all the issues our client presented to us on the university's course evaluations. Next slide.
Alrighty, Mike again. So I'm going to be talking about the improvement for the client. First of all, as we do this, we're going to create a dashboard within Salesforce that will allow us to have a centralized database to store the survey results. This will allow for easy access to the data, including tools to better analyze the data. With the use of filters, we can limit controls that only the data from a specific department can be seen by only that department. This will ensure security across departments and prevent an overwhelming amount of data being sent out to everyone. The authorized users will be able to export their their department's data to their desktop via email. And with the use of Salesforce tools, we'll be using metrics to analyze and compare the data so that it can be easily seen and readable. Departments will, this is a big one. Instead of having multiple graphs, we're going to focus on using a stacked bar chart because we are dealing with loads of data with all the students and all the surveys. So a stacked bar will easily be able to measure that. And that's the improvement for the client.
All right, so obviously one of the major constraints for the project is the budget. And we put in some thought on how to get the most out of the budget that we can. So to mitigate the constraint, what we've done is coordinate with each other for our weekly meetings so we can get the most efficient use of our time. Because if we're all there working on most of our work for the week all together, we can help each other out when we need it and stuff, which allows us to not overflow on time so that more hours than needed aren't being taken up. So another part of the budget is that we're making sure we keep constant track of it, which is an important part of budget management. So this way we're always aware of how much money we have left and how quickly we're burning through it. So currently our plan with the budget is that we're assuming that we'll use more resources as we can move on to testing and stuff like that and development towards the end of the semester. So we're keeping that in mind with our planning. And in addition to that, we're keeping part of the budget available for unforeseen expenses. Like it was mentioned earlier, buying Salesforce licenses, which is part of the project, is an expense. So we're making sure we have enough money set aside for that. And just in general, we are aiming to follow best practices for budget management within project teams. So thank you. If anybody has any questions, now is the time.
Okay, this is Bob. I'll ask a couple here, a couple comments. And I apologize. The audio for me has been kind of cutting in and out, so I'm missing parts of presentations here. But problem statement, I think that was well stated, very clear, concise. I'd caution against using comments about a client's existing state as a complete disaster. That may be a little harsh.
Thank you, Bob.
What's that?
I said thank you for saying that because that was what I was going to bring up.
Yeah, you got to be careful of calling the client's baby ugly. I like the mitigation plan for your budget. That's something that's important. Not just mitigating things for your budget, but most projects have risks, and having mitigation plans for any risks are an important part of that project plan. I'm curious though to hear what are you doing across your team to communicate the budget and help keep team members aligned on how much time they're burning and keeping within the budget.
Basically, we're all generally aware of how many hours we're working. That's being communicated by each person entering in their own hours on the weekly timesheet, and just doing some math from there.
Okay, is that timesheet, are those being consolidated, rolled up, and then shared with the project team so you can all see it? Okay.
We currently have all of those saved, yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right. Well, like I said, in general, good job. I like the direction you're going.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
This is your client. I've got a couple things. So first of all, it sounds like you have a 10-question limit for the proof of concept. But what I'm interested in is a little bit of discussion on how many questions you would anticipate in a full deployment, and then how did you research the specific questions you're considering?
So we kind of decided that more questions isn't necessarily the best thing, but having the right questions is the more productive answer. So we would try to keep it around a max of probably 15. As for the specific questions, that would be going to the different department heads, seeing what information would really be beneficial to them, consolidating that, finding the commonalities between them, and then finalizing those commonalities, maybe through like a voting system throughout the department heads, and then even going up higher into the levels of management.
So it sounds like you haven't completed those activities yet, is that correct?
Not fully. It's not finalized, but we have been going around to the department heads.
Okay, so one thing that I would feel as a client and as someone who does this kind of data analysis for the institution, I think that 15 questions is really little unless they're going to be looking at specific tactical issues. So that's something that maybe I'll need to have additional conversation with your team about that research direction. The other thing is that in your presentation, I thought I heard that you are including the license costs for the other people who need to have access to your system within your budget. Is that correct?
Yes, we are keeping that in mind with our budget
Okay, so are you aware of what the license costs would be for each additional person on campus that would need to access the system?
We did look at that. I do not have the number on hand right now. I should be able to look it up though.
Okay, so I think that
Isn't it
number
about
would be.
$125
I'm sorry,
a
I
month
couldn't hear you.
Isn't it $125 per month per user?
It's around those. There's different levels to it. So finding out which level is best is one of the issues that we need to discuss and figure out.
This is Jessica from Salesforce. I can help with this. UW-Stout would be given a higher ed discount. So if anyone has questions about what that license type and cost would look like, please contact myself or Josh Harder, your Salesforce subject matter experts.
Thank you very much.
And with that, reach out. I think you would also want to do a head count of how many department chairs would you have involved with this, and how many deans or dean's assistants. So if you're saying that the budget's going to include the licensing, those would be some fundamental numbers you'd want to calculate. Otherwise, I appreciate the presentation. You did a good job on it. Thanks.
Thank you, James, for that. Does anybody else have any questions? All right, then I'm going to stop sharing my screen then if we're all good to go. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think TechCamel's next.
Sorry, my mic is saying.
I apologize. I didn't realize I had my microphone muted. Thank you, M&M, for that presentation. If somebody from TechCamel would like to share, please go ahead.
Sure, just one moment. This is Ashley just working, getting some error message. Terry or Noah, would you be able to share? I'm getting an error message.
Yeah, I can try to share mine real quick.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
All right, is that working? Or is it just a black screen?
I can
It's loading.
All right. My name is Ashley, and we are TechCamel Consulting. My name is Ashley Walton. Sorry again. I am the project manager for TechCamel.
My name is Terry Fye. I'm the business analyst for TechCamel.
My name is Noah Lindist. I'm the technical SME for TechCamel.
So first off, we want to start by giving a little bit of information about who we are as a consulting company. We are a small consulting firm offering a mix of technical expertise and business consulting, established in 2009, and we are based out of Menominee, Wisconsin. We take pride in partnering with our clients to meet their business needs. So about our client, UW-Stout, as mentioned in a few other presentations as well, that it is a comprehensive, career-focused polytechnic university. Collaborates with local and regional industry leaders to assist students in reaching their career goals and educational goals. Enrollment of over 9,500 students, having 50 undergraduate programs and 22 graduate programs. And approximately 2,000 students are enrolled on online distance learners. 99% of students entering UW-Stout's undergraduate distance learning program are transfer students. And our project theme is for online course scheduling. That is the problem that we are going to be focusing on. As online students ourselves, we know that there is a need for the ability to access required courses, to make progress, and to complete their programs. The university needs to have the ability to predict future demand for online courses. And instructors need advice or need advance notice to be able to prepare for courses for each semester.
All right, so starting off with some of the considerations you need for online course scheduling, a lot of things that go into this, course prerequisites, you need to know what prerequisites are needed for certain students so they can take courses after that, how many students will be ready for the course, so how many have taken those prerequisites and how many can take each course. Other data is like what other majors also have that course for a requirement, because a lot of courses go for multiple majors. So there's a lot of data that goes into these into online course scheduling. So you can see there could be a lot of problems that go with this. So I'll get into our next thing here, is problems with the current process of course scheduling. So some of these problems came from us as a group, our own experiences online course scheduling, and some other people that we've talked to, other students that we know. This is just some of the data that we gathered talking to either friends or just some other personal experience. So the current process is based on past year's scheduling, not on actual needs. So this is previous year's data. It's not current time. It's what has happened in the past, the previous courses that have happened. So it's just past data. It's not current timing. And program directors do not know what courses students need or want to take in advance. It's usually per semester they go and schedule what they need for the next semester. There's not much like pre-planning that's going in right now. And online students are having difficulties getting classes they need when they need them. I've had a couple issues with this. Some fall semesters or summer semesters, sometimes I just don't get as many classes just because it's so right now you're just planning for the next semester and that's it. There's no pre-planning and they're getting off of past data. It works, it's a working thing, but we could save time doing some more pre-planning, getting more current up-to-date data. And instructors also have very little advance warning when they're required to teach their courses. Like I said, it's based off of past data, and then a lot of the planning is going for just the next semester, so planning for either the fall semester or summer as well, but just the semester ahead, not planning too far ahead. And there's also a slow turnaround time on course cancellations. So if only a few students had signed up for a course, then there's not enough to keep that course open and they end up canceling it. Then they'd get a slow turnaround time and they might not be able to schedule for another course if another one that they need isn't open, so they'd end up only having a few classes and losing one that they might have scheduled for. So the solution that TechCamel wants to provide here, I'd like to build an automated survey system to be sent out online to students that would allow them to enroll in program-specific core courses up to 2 full semesters in advance. This data would be submitted would allow program directors to get an idea of future demand for courses accurately, being that would be 2 full semesters in advance, and they could schedule resources optimally for that. That way there would be less time spent trying to figure things out, and we'd have a little bit more of a plan for the future of what needs to go where and what classes need to happen, or the interest and where students are. So this can ensure that students have available courses when they need them, and faculty members know what's going on a little bit better more into the future as well. So here's a proof of concept, basically broken down what we want to do. Use Salesforce to build a survey that can be sent out to students. And with this data, we can build reports and get an idea of what students or where they are, or the interest for courses that they need 2 full semesters. So with that data, then you can give that to faculty members. We know what classes will be needed. And then we'll have a better plan for what's going to happen in the future. It will increase the retention rate of students because they will be able to schedule easier. I know I've had a few problems with that, but overall we'll just create a survey, get a little bit better planning for the future, and that should be it.
Okay, so the TechCamel team did a SWOT analysis to help us to think about what could possibly impact the success of our project. So the strengths, it would be a standardized survey to determine online student needs. There would be quicker feedback and turnaround time on class availability, ability for students to complete their degree quicker, increase student satisfaction and retention. Staff needs would be determined more quickly, and knowledge of upcoming semester schedules would be available sooner. Next, sorry about that, weaknesses. Limited funding for the implementation due to the budget that we're allowed. Time constraint, it must be done by the end of the semester, so there's not a whole lot of time. Limited number of team members on our team, on TechCamel. Salesforce expertise is still in the learning stages, so those are some of our weaknesses. And opportunities, accurate records of student and course requests and needs, centralization of survey results data, access to student surveys from multiple locations, and data integrity, no duplicate records. And threats, the possibility of employee resistance to change is always a threat. There's no replacement for any of our team members if one of us becomes ill. We could run into some unseen technical difficulties causing project delays, and we could run into a shortage of time for the implementation. And that actually concludes our presentation. So thank you very much from TechCamel.
What questions do we have or comments?
Hey, this is Bob. I'll go. I'll be curious someday to hear the backstory behind a small consulting company derived a name that's based in Menominee called TechCamel. It's unique. If I understood correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, if I missed this, but are you planning to manage things in your solution, like maintaining the prerequisites, you know, as students are looking to sign up for a class, are you notifying that maybe they don't have the right prerequisites?
Yes, we are. We have kind of, in speaking with our client, have determined kind of making sure we have a list of we're focusing right now on the implementation on 3 online-only courses, and have a list, a spreadsheet listed of all of the core courses and the prerequisites for those programs. Okay,
And so that would be current state. I guess my question then is, if you are doing that in your solution, is how do you foresee maintaining that data as, say, prerequisites change or classes are dropped or whatever? I mean, it seems to be an ever-changing thing in any university, course curriculum, etc. So what are your thoughts around how to maintain that data ongoing?
I think it would be, our goal is to kind of utilize a lot of lookup tables to limit the amount of things we have to put into manually into Salesforce. So hopefully we'd be able to update that lookup table, that kind of master list, and then it would impact the entire project.
Okay. The budget, tell me a little bit about where you're at with the budget and estimates to complete.
I think that's an area we kind of, listening to the other groups as well, that's an area that we need to kind of put more focus into. I think we've spent a lot of time of our researching and kind of with our Salesforce, learning, and I think Noah's taken a lot of the trailheads and things like that to kind of figure out what limitations the survey, builder could have. So that's kind of an area that the budget's an area that I know we need to look into a little bit closer to be able to plan that out better.
Okay. Lastly, I think the presentation itself is very nicely organized and put together. I think it's easy to follow as a person in the audience. So nice job on the slide deck. So way to go.
Thank you.
That's it for me.
This is your client jumping in. So first of all, talking about the prerequisites, this is a topic that I, had conversations with the group a couple times. And what we came up with is the idea we can't tell in the future if students have completed their prerequisites or not. So instead of trying to calculate that in, we would simply provide disclosures and disclaimers saying, this is what you've asked for in this term. Be aware that all the following are prerequisites before you can take this course. So it provides some accountability that the student has to do to say, yeah, I understand I need to pass all these courses before I can actually take it. Just a picky thing, because I used to teach business management. For SWOT analysis, normally it's used for looking at the current state and not the future state, and what you're presenting as the future state. I think you've done a really good job with the SWOT analysis. It's a good framework for the discussion. Also, normally in a SWOT analysis, opportunities and weaknesses are from external factors that you can't control. So they might be competition, they might be economy, they might be those types of things. But again, within your presentation, you did a really nice adaptation to frame underneath each one of those titles what were the situations. So it was very clear and understandable. I give you credit on that. I'm just being super picky by saying, normally how I've understood SWOT is a slightly different framework. But good job. Thanks.
Thank you. All right. I think we are finished then. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, TechCamel. That was a great presentation. Alrighty, if somebody from ETS wants to share their screen for the final presentation, that'd be great.
Yep, it's just loading here. And I'll get that in full screen for you. All right, hello everyone. My name is Matthew Gretzlock. I am from Enterprise Technology Service. Before I really get into this, I want to take a moment here to say thank you to all of our Super SMEs that are here today. I also want to say thank you to Evan and Camille and James as well. These have been a weird couple of weeks, and without you, none of this is possible. So to get us started, we'll take a look at ETS here. My name is Matthew Gretzlock, and I am the project manager of ETS. And I will let each of these people introduce themselves, but I'll give you a quick summary here. We have Robert is our business analyst, Jiboli is our technical SME, and Brett Clark is our other technical SME. So to begin, we're going to be looking at the problem. The student experience can be a very difficult thing for faculty to evaluate. Currently, course evaluations are a highly manual process that is also very customizable. On top of this, there is no centralized data collection. This all adds up and makes it difficult for faculty to predict any demand for courses. These issues contribute to an increased chance that students will grow frustrated with courses and facilities not meeting their schedules or their expectations. This ends up increasing the likelihood that students will withdraw or transfer. Go ahead, Robert.
Our solution is to help standardize, automate, and centralize student survey data. It will result in less work for faculty, more useful analysis of the results, and better prediction for future demands. We'll address this by having course evaluations automatically sent at the end of term, along with an additional reminding students about the current advisement resources on access.uwstout.edu and asking general use questions regarding scheduling and facility use. By developing a solution in Salesforce that automatically sends surveys, at the end of term, we hope to standardize questions guaranteeing every department and instructor will be working with the same course evaluation information. The results will then be collected into a central repository and allow for reporting dashboards such as scatter plots or histograms. Next slide, please, Matt. Our deliverables are going to be some sample surveys and templates for the course evaluation and future planning, some sample emails and templates for the same surveys and the resource reminders. We're going to put out some sample survey results data with mock student data so that you can see how the repository works, and then we can put that data into some sample dashboards illustrating the possibilities for a visual representation of that data. I'll let Brett take it from here.
So here is an example of what our dashboard will look like when survey results come in. As you can see right now, this is a current screenshot of what my company is currently working on, what I've been developing. As you can see, we're going to have our survey questions presented as well as the results, and they will be set up to give you the number of how many of the similar responses that you receive from all surveys. And this will be presented to department chairs, probably deans, a few deans, just to give them a little bit of a feedback from a facility standpoint. And as you can see in the bottom, we will also look into getting the essay responses in there also, so that department chairs and deans can also see the responses. Next slide, Matt. And here is an example of what the survey will look like that will be going out to our students and getting their feedback. This one is based off a current survey I'm creating for my current employer. We are using a rating scale, but ours will be true, false, and a Likert scaling and essay question as well. And I'll hand it over to Jiboli.
My name is Mugbola Fagwenja, generally known as Jiboli. Our surveys is going to be limited to 10 questions, as you can because it's going to focus on the key important questions throughout in the solution. And the question will be like a true or false Likert scale, it and many other others like that. We're going to no student specific course advancement. That means we don't input a specific course to a particular we don't tag a particular question to a particular course. So it's going to be a general. So we're going to open it's going to be open question because it's going to be a evaluation survey. Survey we generalize to figure out student accommodation. So it's going to be generalized to figure out the evaluation of a particular key important area about the student. Not expected to be accommodated for individual courses. As I said, it's not going to be specific on a certain course because we would look at the general area of UW's students. And the last one is the dashboard will display the rating scale more efficient than the essay with style response. So all the survey is the evaluation survey is going to look at all the key area that matters most regarding the solution, and we're going to work towards the solution. We focus on we have done a lot regarding all the other the processes and the design, but we more focus on this presentation on the solution. That's why we did not present all the analysis and the design that we've done so far. That's any question for now?
This is your client. I've got a couple. So is it my understanding that you're having just one survey to evaluate the services, or are you having two surveys, one that would be about facilities and one would be about the course evaluation? I guess I'm a little bit confused.
Each course would get its own evaluation survey, and then in addition to that, the students would get one general use survey asking questions about facility use and future planning.
Okay, very good. And then for the course evaluation survey, what type of research have you done on the questions that could be asked?
That is one thing that we have to reach out to department chairs and get more feedback as to what specific questions they want to ask.
We have done some research on what some other bigger schools are doing as well.
Yes, as my team has mentioned, that is exactly what we are working on now to get the key question that is needed for this survey, so that we hope the subsequent presentation will be having everything done.
Okay, my one concern was seeing that you plan to ask some true-false questions, and because you have such a limited question set, I would just suggest that you develop a pretty broad list of questions from which you're going to pick your final 10. So I would say you might want to have, 60, 75 separate question ideas that you've gathered from many different resources, so that the final ones that you pick are representative of the types of questions that need to be in the final deployment. But I think that it was really smart of you to say that you're going to provide examples of this, examples of that, using mock data, because within a proof of concept, that's really what we want to see is, not only the types of questions being asked, but also how is that going to end up on the final dashboards and reports. So good job on that.
Thank you. Any question, please?
Yeah, real quick, just give me an update on the budget. I didn't see anything on that. Hello?
Matt, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I guess at this point, we haven't looked too far into it. We have spent a lot of time. We know we need to look further into the licenses and such. But yeah, we need to look further into the budget for sure.
Okay. If I were the client, I'd want to understand where you're at. I know you're maybe not quite halfway through the project, but
right,
you're well into it. So I think that's a critical piece of information to share with the client. Overall, the slide deck was good, clear, concise, just nitpicky, but the survey dashboard was a little hard to see. Actually, it was hard to see. So just be aware of that. Some of those kind of things. It looks like you're using a PowerPoint template, and sometimes you just got to break away from the template and create a slide that allows you to enlarge the imagery and make it a little bit easier for the audience to read. So just be aware of that.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
As an instructional designer, one of my cheats is that if I'm trying to show something off of a web page, I will create a new window and shrink that down so that whatever's showing on the screen is in a smaller space, and that way everything becomes more legible. So just something that all the groups could consider is if you're doing a screenshot, make your browser window tiny. One other thing that I want to say to all groups, kind of in wrap up here, is a lot of you are going to be using mock data, and if you are planning to ask my help in creating mock data sets, I will need to have all of your requests fully detailed out by the end of next week. That will give you adequate time to, figure out what you need to ask me for. And, at the end of next week, it will give me some time that I can put some stuff together so I can get it back to you in a reasonable time to have it as part of your projects. So just if you've got anything more that you need from me for data, I need to have very specific details of what you need by the end of next week. So there you go.
Sounds good. Thank you, James.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any other question, please? Hello.
Alrighty, sounds like that's a no.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you, ETS, for sharing.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, PMs.
Thank you.
Alrighty, wrapping up. Does anyone have any final thoughts?
Brian, I do have a question. This is Ashley. Just different groups had different things with the licensing, and so I just wanted to clarify that a little bit for the Salesforce licenses. Are we required to account for those licenses, those added licenses, in our budget or not?
As the client, I would not expect you to have that as part of your project budget, but I would need to have that be clearly detailed out and calculated for if we move forward for a full implementation from the proof of concept. What is the additional financial impact of not only the licenses that would be needed, but also the other scaling out of, from the proof of concept to full deployment? We would need to have some estimates from the project group, what would be the financial impact of a full deployment.
Thank you, James.
Alrighty, Evan, I believe you wanted to say a few words.
Yes, thanks, Brett. So as we are wrapping up this initial solution presentation, you've gotten a lot to essentially take in, and not only for your individual solution for your client, but you've also got to hear some other perspectives. I recommend all of you, for the sake of learning, because we make no assumptions you know all this right now, is that you listen to this video again. This video will be essentially placed or other videos for our initial meetings with Bob and our client James Kurtz will be watching for that. There's a lot to be learned here, and again, it's even at midway through this experience, it's still quite substantial as far as the learning curve is concerned. At this point, just a couple comments as far as communication. There were lots of good examples tonight as far as good design, good layout, and just logical thought as far as what you're looking to present. In some respects, you're going to be doing this again with a final prototype, some additional criteria added to this, but take those ideas and move forward. Like some things that I see pretty consistently in these particular presentations, don't let your slides say everything. Remember, you are the presenter, so whatever you have on a slide, make sure it's essentially accentuating you, the presenter, versus the other way around. I saw a fair amount of reading from slides, which is a real common error as far as using presentation tools like PowerPoint or anything else. Again, remember, you are the presenter. The slide is not. If your slides say everything you're saying, one of you is not necessary. So keep that in mind. Also, imagery that you use, make sure that you have things that can be seen. If you're going to use flow charts, make sure that the flow charts are something visible. Now, since we're likely not going to have a physical audience because of the circumstances around the coronavirus, this works pretty nicely. Things were seen very nicely, and quite honestly, this was really kind of a pleasure for me to watch on this end. But just make sure that whatever you put out there, that it can be seen. So keep working at it, keep getting after it, look to essentially deliver on what your client has approved you to deliver, and just keep going. From another perspective, because of all the crazy that's going on in our lives right now, whether it's school or work or whatever, I want you to know that what you folks experience tonight, what you're engaged in, not everybody is doing. And I just want to give a special shout out to the program managers for managing this. There's lots of moving parts in anything like this. And quite honestly, it went really, really nicely. So kudos, leadership team. And also thank you, Bob, and thank you, James, and thank you, Jessica, for chiming in. We'll continue to do our best to communicate and work with each other so we can make something that everybody's going to be really proud of. And at this point, I'm feeling pretty good about this. So, folks, I appreciate your efforts on this. Reach out. We know your lives are different. Ours certainly are as well. We'd be certainly willing to help you as needed.
Yeah, I'll just add to that. I'd mentioned to Evan that our consulting firm hasn't slowed down. Our clients are still busy, and none of our projects have stopped, and everything is being done remote, just like all of you are experiencing. The last thing I'll say is just everyone stay healthy, stay safe, and wash your hands.
Thanks for that, Bob. Definitely keep washing my hands. Alrighty, I guess with that, we will conclude tonight's meeting if nobody has any other thoughts. So thank you all for attending. We'll see you all next week. Thanks.
Thank you.